the Philippines is not really, we could say, lucky because I think January 13, when I have a visitor here from the Philippines, the Taal volcano starts to erupt. But during that time, there's already the case of COVID-19 in China. And my friend and I said, oh, maybe it will reach the Philippines by then. Okay, but what happened, I think there's two cases and then it stopped. Maybe the volcanic eruption has something to do with it. And before the end of January, Kobe Bryant died. So we could say 2020 is not really a good year to start. And during that time, me and a friend of mine from China in the department already has a bad feeling. What if COVID-19 reached the US? Because we tell to ourselves that it's going to be worse than what's happening in China because of the lax of rule here in the United States. And when it did happen, okay, during that time, we already asked by our chair to prepare ourselves. Even I am preparing also for myself, and I asked this question. Okay, so I asked myself, how are we going to transition during the middle of the semester? How can we maintain the same engagement that we have in a face-to-face environment once we go online? And are we ready for this mode of teaching? So how will the students react to this mode of teaching, and how are we going to do the laboratory class? So those are the questions that's really running during in our mind. Okay, during that time that the incidence in China is getting worse. Okay, and then as of now, this is where we are. It's not good. Okay, as of now, I think we passed the 3 million cases because this information from CDC was from yesterday. But luckily, where we are, New York City, we could say we have flattened the curve already. So this is where it all started, March 1, and then this is where we are now. And we could say, one of the worst hit area. At least in New York City, 214,000 cases were reported, and of which 18,618 has died from this what we call COVID-19. Okay, and I think we're lucky because we have a governor who helped us, lead us during this time. But during that time, we really don't know what happened. I just want to share to you what happened in our teaching during that time, because during the time, we could say we don't really know what to do. And from, we could say, March 1 to the present, these are the buzzwords that came out. Okay, so these are the things that becomes common, and you're going to learn about it as we go on. Okay, and for me, when the pandemic happened, I was teaching in two institutions. I'm an associate professor in Pace University, and I'm teaching these courses. And I'm also serving as an adjunct, a part-time associate professor in York College, one of the City University of New York campuses here. I teach there Saturday, Friday. Okay, so we call it in Pace remote learning, and in York College distance learning, but they're just the same. It's just due to the announcement here. I remember the time I met the class. That's Tuesday. So I have a class Tuesday in the morning there with my lecturer, and I told them, be ready because this might be our last face-to-face class. And during our meeting in our research group, okay, one of the member there of the group told us that the university will come out with an announcement. And at 4:18, they said that we're going to share what we call remote learning. Okay, and then that week also, they also announced that we're going to go to distance learning, but they're just the same. Okay, we're just going to work from home during that time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share to you here the things that I did during the spring 2020. Okay, so I'm going to discuss this the item that is listed in this slide. So I think the first thing that come out is we need to know how is this remote learning and or distant learning different from online learning. Online learning is already, we could say, being used around the world, and it is very different from remote or distance learning. and Professor Jason Range of Communication Studies from SUNY New Paltz gave this table to show the difference between online learning and remote learning. So in terms of intention, online learning is planned. Remote learning is, we could say, an emergent crisis. The development timeline for online learning, you have 1 to 2 years prior development. For remote learning, ahora mismo, as soon as possible. Instructional development for online learning is intentional and guided. For remote learning is haphazard and emergent. Now, the focus for the online learning is we have this online andragogy. So this refers to the methods and approaches that is used in adult education and is directed towards self-actualization, gaining experience, and problem solving. So I think people from the OU know more about them. In remote learning, it's just about academic attainment. Okay? Trainer-focused content and andragogy, and in remote learning, content and delivery. And I think the signal that we're given is just finish the semester. Okay? And if you're going to look at the andragogical focus, best practices for online, remote learning is best practices for crisis. And in the learner focus, there's engagement and attainment for online learning. For remote learning, it's all attainment. Okay? And another article also showed the difference between online learning and remote learning. But I think the thing that what we call this slide show us is the take-home message that nobody signed up for remote learning. Okay, so we cannot judge the online learning based on this what we call experience. So that's the thing that we first feed to our students. We have to let them buy into the idea that we're going to do this because this is the only way. We cannot meet face to face. So what we're trying to do in remote learning or distance learning, we try to mimic the environment that we have in a face to face, but instead of doing it face to face, we do it through computer, okay, through online course. And I think overnight, most of the universities become what we call Zoom University, because the next thing that we are asked to do is forced to become techno-genius. And we are asked what's the LMS that we're going to use. So we have Blackboard Collaborate in PACE and York College. We have Zoom in PACE University. And then we are asked to if we want to try Google Meet or Microsoft Teams. So for me, I just use Blackboard Collaborate and Zoom. And then in addition to that, we have this lockdown browser. This is something to do with when they take the exam to avoid cheating. And I'm going to discuss about that later on as we go on. Okay? And the thing that I always do whenever we are in a crisis, I always ask little help from my friends. So I have to contact some of my colleagues from former colleagues in Institute of Chemistry, UP Los Baños, who are teaching here in the US also. So we have this chat group in Facebook. So unknowingly, all of us are teaching in private university. So we are what we call in different area here. So she's from Kansas, Texas, Washington, D.C., and Illinois. And also because of them, maybe you should also write this if you still don't know, I was able to join this group in Facebook, the strategies for teaching chemistry online. So it it was formed due to this crisis that we have. And faculty here in chemistry are sharing strategies that they have, the problems that they encounter. I think most of the time they're talking about how students are cheating most of the time during the exam. Okay, so I asked for help to those who, because all I can say is we are all of these together. Okay, so we might as well help one another. But the most important thing, because when the remote learning and distance learning was announced, in PACE University, we are approaching spring break. And in your college, we were given 1 week to prepare ourselves, canceling the spring break that we have. And during that time, I take advantage to get the inputs of the student. Since we have Blackboard Collaborate, I was able to do some surveys, okay? Because I want to make myself in the same situation as them. So the first thing that I ask them is fill up a survey. And then these are some of the questions that I put in those surveys. Do they have computers? Do they have reliable internet access? Will watching videos and chemistry topics helpful to them? Are they willing to do virtual meeting? And I ask them to check all the choices that they're willing to try among these things. Okay, and the inputs that they have there has was my guide in preparing how I will do the class. So I have there an open-ended question. Do you have any concerns on this mode of teaching? And these are some of the questions that came out, the answers that came out. So only minor concerns attributed to not being in a classroom setting. I never learned online before in this way, so this will take adjusting to. And on top of this, how will labs be conducted? And then another student said they're providing solutions to any problems on the slides. And another student said that I will not understand the material and I will have no one to ask. Okay, so these are serve as my guide in preparing my class because I have 1 week to prepare. And then in another open-ended question, what are the things that you are most worried about related specifically to class once we move to remote learning? So one student says, I'm worried about being able to ask questions in the classroom setting. It was nice during class to be able to ask you if something was confusing. The organization factor, as said by another student, and not being able to learn as well. So this has been my guide. So during the transition time that we have learned this word synchronous and asynchronous. So when you say synchronous, you're going to have the class at the same time. So the good thing is we kept the schedule as it is. So this make it different from online learning because online learning, you are flexible, okay? The thing that you do in the online learning is you just have to do the requirements before the deadline. But that makes online learning, we could say, not organized for the part of the students because only motivated students can survive online learning. So there's a study in the inside higher educations that show most students don't finish this online learning. Okay, so in the synchronous thing, so that means I'm going to hold the class as scheduled. So I invest myself in the mic and a pad because I prefer to teach by writing, not clicking the mouse. And at the same time, I also put some asynchronous material. So the recording of the session of the class, I made it available. And then additional materials were posted, especially on the so-called problem solving. So I used PowerPoint and then I recorded the PowerPoint and then put the PowerPoint them and give them direction how to play it. Okay. Now, if we're going to look at the synchronous and asynchronous teaching, online courses, usually they are asynchronous. As I told you, it has a lot of flexibility and only a certain period of that is synchronous. This is in comparison to face-to-face courses, which is the reverse. Okay, most of them are synchronous learning and only a few times of them are asynchronous. So what happened is just flip the classroom. The good thing is I already practiced some flipping the classroom during my lecture. I asked them to watch video of the lecture before I deliver the lecture. So I put there some YouTube videos from another professor that's telling them what's the topic about in a certain chapter, and I asked them to watch it before coming to the class. So this is the shift that we have to do during that time. Okay, to do I want to do synchronous learning because I want them to still have a feel that we are still in class. Okay, and then during exam, I put more surveys. I ask them. I just want to make sure that we are in the same what we call direction. So some of the questions that I ask, the exam is difficult. The time given to the exam is enough. The question covers in the exam is equally distributed among the chapters. And I will do better if this exam was taken during the normal face-to-face class. And then I'm happy to, with my exam results, too bad for me, they already know the score before they answer this question. And in the open-ended question, do you have any comments, suggestion, reaction with regards to the exam that you have taken? Feel free to give them so I can improve the setup that we have at this time. And their answers there, usually no comment. And then I appreciate you being on Zoom to help answer our questions. So it's just like when I proctored the exam, even though I'm just sitting in a table in front of the computer, it's just like I'm monitoring them online. And then no comments. I thought it was the best exam could have possibly been given the circumstance. And I have no suggestions. I feel this is the best option for current situation. So I think survey is the one that trying to connect myself to my student. I want to have their inputs in everything that I do. Okay. And the good thing about this is the administrations of both institutions are really, we could say, helpful. Every week, they always send us email from the top, the provost of both institution. So they always emphasize communicating with the students. Most of the time, we have to stay connected with them. Okay? And then this thing, practice of empathy. So empathy is what? Capacity to place oneself in another position. So this is ability to understand and share the feelings of another. So we are asked to bear in mind that everyone is doing their best under an extraordinary set of circumstances. We're asked to be patient and kind. And I think this is the essential for effective, we could say, teaching. And for the first time, both of them, both institutions, institute this pass or fail option. Okay? So this is the thing. The students already know their numerical grade, and they have the option to file for a pass or fail. So when you say pass, if your grade, let's say, is D, you can just what we call make it a pass. So you will just be credited for that course. It will not be counted in your GWA or GPA. So looking at the class transition that I have during this time, so I would say I have three types of activities that I have. So for my research activities in the research group, I suspended it. Lecture transition, we could say it's easier. Okay, from the blackboard to what we call the virtual blackboard. Now, the laboratory, we could say that's a little bit challenging. Okay, so I'm going to discuss each of them one by one. So I have an active research group. So this is my group at the end of fall semester. So usually I have 1,000 students with me. And this is March 6th, if I'm not mistaken, or March 7th. Okay, we have a local activity in the school, and some of the members of the group presented them here. And this is I think the last time that we're together as a group. And by the end of the semester, this is how we look like in a Zoom meeting. Okay, so in the research activity that we have, we suspended all physical research activity since the class is suspended. I have 12 posters by my students that are supposed to be presented in the ACS National meeting in March 2020 to 26 in Philadelphia, since the what we call meeting was suspended. So they were not able to what we could present, but I think they have a virtual meeting and only 3 of the 12 posters was presented virtually. And what I did is I just concentrated on the 3 students who need to finish their thesis as requirements for their graduation. Okay, and as of now, only computational calculations and processing of data are the one that is being held. So mostly we're just writing papers. And I have no intention to do any research activities this fall semester unless the NSF proposal that I have submitted will be funded, and I will force to do the thing. Now for the lecture class, the option that I have is Zoom and Blackboard, but Zoom, it's okay if you see them face to face, but most of the students don't do that. The only class that I see them face to face are those class wherein the students have been my student before, an instrumental class. We have been, most of the students have been my, what we call students in analytical chemistry semester before. And I held synchronous class. We stick to the schedule as we have, and we recorded the sessions and made them available for those students that will not be able to attend, okay, our synchronous class. And I also posted recorded short slides for problem solving, okay? And in case they need to meet me, for office hour, we meet in Zoom. Now, the challenge here is how to make them more engaged during class. So the lack of engagement is the main problem. So what I do, I think it's just a lack of self-direction. So I just try to make them all motivated. So I gave them opportunities. If you're going to attend this class, we have a quiz. So we just, what we call, the more quizzes that you have, the more chances you have a grade, because we're just going to select the 10 highest score, okay? All the lowest score will be canceled out. So there are problems that we have. Not all students are attending the class, and some of them, because they have become direct victim of or their families have become direct victim of COVID-19. Assessment has become a problem, okay? This company become popular. Their stocks value rise up. Checking occur. So all questions that we have in the test banks are available online. And in one of my class, there's an exam score inflation. From 57 in the first exam, it becomes 82 in the second exam. So something is not going well there. So what I did, I adjust. So the third and fourth exam, it went back to 60 and 62. And then we have this Respondus lockdown. So this is an anti-cheating software. So it monitors you while you take the exam. But for the sake of privacy, I didn't implement it during the spring semester. Okay? Now, for the laboratory class, there are options that we have. One is we don't do lab. I think some schools don't do lab this coming school opening there in the Philippines. Some of my friends told me. Or we can do some virtual labs or simulations. We can have home-based experiment, or we use videos related to the experiment. Now, the objective that we have right now to make the lab is to make laboratory useful to reinforce the concepts discussed in lecture. Okay, developing techniques has been out of the question. Now, virtual labs, there's a lot. They make it free. But we decided, since this is the middle of the semester, we just continue with the course and finish it. And then during this summer, a lot of us are asking, are we going to use it in case we're going to have this, what we call virtual labs for the fall semester. So these are just some: Gian Labs, Lab Archives, Journal of Video Experiment, Cloud Lab, Science Lab, Proxy Labs, Hands-On Labs, Chem 101, and Labster. And the thing that we didn't want to use it at the middle of the semester, we don't want the students to pay for a fee. Okay? There are pre-simulations that some of us use. So Lab Exchange, Chem Collective, Merlot Materials, the PET, and then the American Association of Chemistry Teachers. And then the ACS has this page in virtual chemistry and simulation. Okay. And then I use also simulation because I'm teaching analytical chemistry. So I need one for HPLC, mass spec, and the IR simulation. So these are the web page that I use. So that's one of the options that we have. Now, the other option that we have, the home-based experiment. So there are commercially available lab kits in combination with household items, provide the means to conduct experiment at home on a smaller scale and without the need for expensive equipment. Again, you have to pay for the kits here. Okay, so we try to develop our own. I did that this summer, but the problem is safety issues. Sewing is common here. That's why when my chair learned that I asked to do some home-based experiment, he asked me to cancel it right away because we don't want any legal liabilities, which is a big problem. Okay, so we end up with this, the video-based on experiment, the best option that we have. For me, because I'm the one who have to make the decision, I said I have used video to reinforce lectures and laboratory. I have papers on how to enhance learning using the videos that was, we could say, published in as book chapters in ACS ebooks. So I said, why don't we just stop YouTube and then find videos that is related to our experiment? And that's what we did. There's a lot of videos available in YouTube, and we're able to use them for our Gen Chem lab courses and my own instrumental lab courses in both institutions. Okay? Although we could say watching videos is different than doing hands-on lab. That's the also worry that I have with these virtual labs, because it's all simulations. I think you cannot learn titration technique by just clicking the mouse. You have to learn it the way you do it in the lab. Okay. Although I found a paper that even though you don't do hands-on, student can learn from lack of hands-on experience. Okay, as one of the paper here, it's a fluid mechanics course, so they found out the score is the same for those students who just watch the video and those students that do hands-on experiment. Now, the thing is, as I'm the one who have to develop this thing as we move on forward, some questions and modifications that you need to do in utilizing this activity for the lab. What do students learn from lab courses? How do we know that we learn from the lab courses? And will the present setup be as good as the face-to-face? Or you could just what we could end with the question, what do you want your students to learn when you teach the lab or when they do the experiment? What's the most important thing the students need to know in a given experiment? Okay? Because the way I do it, there's a change in the perspective that we have. We apply the begin, the end concept. So when you try to develop an experiment, what do you want the students to learn from the experiment? So that's the way that we try to do all the experiments in the new normal. And we have to modify the learning outcomes, and we focus more on other stuff, maybe data processing or analysis and interpretation, communication skills like writing, and use of imagination, wherein we ask them to design the experiments. So what happened by the end of the semester? Okay, we felt stressed out. I think it's the most stressful semester. Okay, at least right now you don't hear it, but during the time when it was peaking or during the peak time, I can hear ambulances here from my window. I'm in 3rd Avenue. So maya-maya may wang-wang na naririnig. And it was really, we could say, deepening. Ano na lang namin is another one bites the dust whenever we hear that thing. And you can look it from our place. So when we want to what we call work at home, I'm teaching in college. My wife is teaching in the early education. My son is a high school student, and my daughter is a pre-K. So all of us are doing, we could say, remote learning. So imagine the schedule when all of them are at the same time. All of us have to have our own, what we call our own personal, our own laptop when that happened. And I think being at home and working, you cannot differentiate, is it work time or home time? So it's not only me that felt stressed out, even my friends, okay, that I asked help are also stressed out. And then we felt helpless. There's a lot of anxiety. There's always a constant fear. For the first time, I think I just went up twice during the every month, I think during April and May. And it's just during the time that we have to get supplies because the delivery is so hard. When you ask for delivery, they will deliver it, 2 or 3 weeks from the time that you order, because everyone is doing this, what we call home delivery, okay? And some of the CUNY grad students, the Filipino grad students in CUNY, so they asked us that we meet at least weekly, okay, just to be in touch with what is happening around us. And after the, what we call the end of the semester, both institutions put a memo that we can only teach this summer if we have this, what we call certification in online teaching. Remember, we are forced to shift in remote learning, and we don't have any online teaching training. So I learned a lot about that, okay, and it helped me prepare for the summer. And I think the best feeling that we have here is when we get the student evaluation. All efforts are worthwhile because the students are really thankful of what happened. They said the teacher did their best in this situation. Okay, so I think that's the bonus that we have by the end of the semester. So the future setup that we have right now, we don't know what will happen. Although our president said school should be open, no one's going to believe him. Okay? In paper, Face University is going to be high-plex. So this is a hybrid flexible mode, a mix of face-to-face and online classes. But the decision is based on this guy. Okay? And I think we are very thankful for this guy because he's always there every day. He always what we call, he has this press conference. And until today, he's still doing that. And he told yesterday, I am the one who will decide by August if we're going to go back to school. Okay? Because it's the governor, not the president. So if we're going to look at our new normal, so based on the meeting that we have with the administration, face mask and face shield will be required. I think this is how I usually look like when I go out here around my area. Okay, the 6 feet apart, physical social distancing, and then we have to implement the 25% room capacity. Okay, and we might have a rotation system, but I always believe we in chemistry, we always what we could try our best to solve the problem. Okay, because we might rearrange the letters in the word chemistry, and they said, Christ, why me? I always tell my student at the beginning, either you do it chemistry or at the end you will say, Christ, why me? And we're going to miss the setup that we have like this. So this is a general chemistry lab, and this is an analytical chemistry lab. Because the way, if we're going to go with the 25% distance or 25% accommodation, this is how the lab would look like. The 0 there or the O are the students, the X there is the faculty. Okay. Now, as I reflect on what happened during this time and as we prepare in the new normal, okay, all I can say is there's no easy solution to our current setup. There is no right or wrong answer. Okay. We have to try every thing that we think will at least solve some of the problems that we have. And I think for you, the problem that you have there is much worse than what we have here. Okay? At least in terms of infrastructure. The only problem that we have here is in terms of some society problems, especially the news that you're hearing right now. Okay? Some people are just too hard-headed to wear a mask. Okay? We have all the structure that we have here, but some students don't have computers. If ever they have computers, the internet is what we call another problem. Okay, but I always said that whatever problem that we have, we can find solution, and this solution may not be perfect, but for the time being, I think that's the best solution that we have. Because when we're doing planning at this time, they said, okay, so we were going to go 888 for the 24 students, and then a week after, no, we cannot go 888 because it says 25% capacity. So we said, then we do 666 rotation. Okay? And then in all decisions that you have to make during this remote learning, the student should be the most important thing to consider. Although we could say all of us are what? Student-centered, but in the end, that have to take the center stage. Okay? I think that's one of the things that makes it more stressful for me, because if the student don't respond, I'm thinking, what's happening to the students? Okay? So you want to be connected most of the time with the students, and you want to input whatever suggestion or situation that the students has during this time. and then find positives in the current situation. Okay. I take this that I have learned a lot about online learning. I have learned a lot of teaching strategies that will be useful if ever the face-to-face meeting will be seen again in the near future. And our enrollment, the science students are increasing because they found out that maybe at this time of pandemics, it's science that will make move forward. Okay, the problem that we have can be only solved by science. And then plan, plan, plan. Okay, we are asked to have an A to C plan because we don't know what will happen. We might have a plan already, but what happened if at the middle is there's a spike already in the cases, so we might go back work at home again. And the thing is, you have to find alternative to high stakes assessment. So I'm sorry for that. High stakes assessment usually is what? Exam. Now, students usually they try to find way to cheat during the exam. So as much as possible, can you find an alternative? Maybe the way that I did this summer is instead of a 3 long exams, I just make it 10 long quizzes. Why 10? Because then there's 10 chapters, okay, that what we call cover. So after every chapter, we do what we call quizzes. And they like it. And this is the thing that everyone has to remember, mental issues is a real thing. It take a toll on me during this time. Maybe because it's first time that it happened, that I have a setup like this. It's much easier with the face-to-face. And I think some students has developed these issues also during this time. So you have to take that into consideration. So maybe that's just the thing that I can ask you to think about as you prepare for this so-called new normal. Because in the Philippine setting, I can ask you, what are the challenges that you have in holding your class? Are your students ready for whatever mode of teaching? Flexible, blended, remote, distance, or online learning that you will have. Okay? Ang tanong nga is, handa ka na ba? Are you ready for this new normal? Okay? And I'd like to thank the PACT for allowing me to share this experience through Ate Flor. I'd like to thank you also who attended the webinar. Okay, thank you. And I'd like to tell you that this is the first webinar that I have for this month. This July, I would be, we could say, busy giving webinar. I just finished my summer class this week. So I just submitted my grade a while ago before we started the thing. Okay, so thank you very much. I hope you learned something.